Hey, and welcome to TSOB. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who are interested in investing or starting their own funds. We are Adam Anderson and Zach Eikenberry. Join us to get a behind-the-scenes look at the relationships between founding entrepreneurs and the VCs that invest in them. Hey, are you ready for South by Southwest?
Kind of. I
Good.
am. I'm going to do. So in general, I'm not good at traveling or prepping for traveling until immediately right before, because like if I pack my bag tonight, I will want to recheck my bag and pull everything out tomorrow morning before I go. So yeah, I got to
What
do
time's
all
your
this stuff.
flight?
I need to be up at 4 a.m. tomorrow to get to the airport. I think my flight's at 5:30 a.m.
Sweet, sweet.
Yeah, what about you?
Yep. Got the thing ready to go. Not 100% sure about the dress code, so I'm bringing a variety of fun things. Zero speedos. I figure that's more of a uh, fire festival type outfit, or
Mhm.
Burning Man, but probably not South by Southwest.
Yeah. By the way, I got us tickets to Fire Festival.
Oh,
It's
good.
gonna be awesome.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go.
I,
Here's gonna be on this fancy island.
I just cleared out. I got this email out of the blue,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is too good to be true." I clicked on it. They told me I got tickets. I just had to put my credit card.
Sweet. Did you use the company card?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Hey, you could upgrade." So I used my personal card too. I just like boom.
Yeah, you know what? When they ask you for your username and password for your bank account and wiring information, that's when you know you've hit VIP level.
That's right.
Because
And
that's some handcrafted customer service there.
That's right. Yeah, and they needed to verify my identity. Like I thought this was brilliant by like asking for my wife's like social security and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
did it all over. Great.
That's fantastic, man. I'm really happy for you. I feel like the you got tickets for everybody, right?
They're going to get back with me.
Good.
First, they have to scan my computer for viruses.
Okay, of course they do. Absolutely, that's the next step because you don't want to bring no virus onto the fire
No,
festival.
this is VIP level stuff.
So VIP. Do you hear my dog walking around behind me?
No,
Okay,
not on
good,
that island.
good. Yeah, this is Necker Island. This is actually me. Like I took this picture. I took this video from the pool in Lower Valley, and just feeling like Necker today. So
Yeah, I I happened. The radio happened to come on this morning after I dropped my kids off at school,
hmm
and guess what was playing? First note,
what?
Blues Traveler.
Oh, excellent.
And I was like, "Yeah, it's a Blues Traveler day. That's right." I was like, "Thank you, radio." And so, yeah. I don't know if you know this, but the hook will bring you back.
Okay. Well, should we talk about things? This is the TSOB, two stones, one bird,
Mhm.
where two Luddites, two stoners, two guys, you and I, figuring out this transition from entrepreneurship to the investing class.
Yes.
And so I think our motto is fuck that bird. It's just two stones, one bird, not two birds with one stone. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna dive way too much into things. We're not gonna just hit the topic with one stone. We're gonna fuck that bird. Wait, no, we're not gonna fuck the bird. You know what? What we're gonna do anyway. So, what went right for you last week? What's going good for you this week? Let's bring us up to speed. Take 2 minutes. You're very, very verbose. Cut to the chase.
Oh, so my hot takes on my highs from this week.
Yeah.
So internal to the company I currently run, we've got a replicable sales system. We got a new salesperson up carrying quota, and we
What?
have a little Slack channel that shows when deals get done, and we just keep seeing that thing pop off. Which is, we've gotten leads coming in. Those leads book demos. Those demos convert. Those people become subscribers, and then on top of all that, the Oscars were announced for G2,
Mm-hmm.
which are their recognitions and awards. And G2 is pretty verbose at um, They're pretty liberal with all the categories for possible awards, but we ended up bringing home 9 Oscars from spring 2022.
Dang.
And so mostly in the small business mid market class, but it's showing me a system. You can build a system and know what works and know how hard it is to build that system. When we flip to the other side of the table on the investor stuff, um, lows this week, they would include, uh, a number of challenges to mindset, a number of pivots to plans.
Mm,
You jump into a new year and you're like, okay, we're going to, raise this money. We're going to deploy it this way. We got these people lined up to hire, these programs lined up to launch. And then if capital is delayed or something is mismatched with the timing, you feel like you're behind when you're
mm,
really not.
yep.
And so constantly wrestling at a psychological level with the ideal man or the ideal company I've created in my head and then the reality, and having those two things wrestle with each other. Some people call that expectations. Yeah, we have a mismatch of expectations and reality, but those are some of my lows this week, wrestling through that.
Cool. We should start with your lows and ends with your highs because that's a better journey. I like
Okay.
positivity.
Okay. Fair enough.
So yeah, I'll go. Um one of the hypotheses we're testing is when you start a fund or when you start an investment community, if you focus on a particular city that wants to be known as a thing, then you can really get the city excited and you can get the investor community excited and you can get the ecosystem going. And so I'm running through a bunch of different cities. We've looked at Louisville, we've looked at Greenville, South Carolina, and we're looking at Tampa. And so a lot of my wins have I've been having great conversations with people who are there, asking them the question, is there room in Tampa for a fund 100% focused on cybersecurity, or are you guys completely tapped out? And I'm asking the investor community because I'm trying to get them to say, no, we've got enough. We don't need any more funds. We're completely cool. And all I've been hearing is, oh gosh, yes, there's plenty of room. We absolutely need people to look at early stage funds. We absolutely need. Then the interesting part was, it wasn't that there wasn't an appetite. So this is my highs that I got validation from 4 different influencers in Tampa that there is absolutely appetite for a new fund down there. What they pushed back on was they had questions on whether or not there was enough deal flow in Tampa and in the surrounding area to really build the ecosystem, and which is actually a curse and a blessing because that's all I know how to do is build cybersecurity companies and nurture cyber nerds transitioning into running their own businesses. So I got very, very excited, but I think it's very much like what you just said, having to manage the expectations and the timelines of what I want to have happen versus the speed of limited partners and lawyers and all of that. Um, oh yeah, another great thing is that I got a new admin assistant. Not really. I have got a chief of staff. My wife stepped in and said, "You're chaotic and you are a hot mess. Get out of the way. I'm going to schedule all this crap." And so I was curious how it was going to work out. We've worked really well together in the past, but in day 2, I feel so much weight off of my shoulders. Like I feel like the garbage has been cleared out, and I can actually get things done.
Mm,
So not a lot of things going wrong, other than gosh, I wish we could move faster. And it seems like that's a thing everybody is going through, right? We all want to move faster.
mhm. That's right. Moving fast and breaking things is not something that scares me.
Yep.
But I wanna actually piggy piggyback. That's not the right word. I want to
Sure.
elaborate with you on this deal flow question in Tampa.
Well, how about
Um,
we stop, elaborate, and I'll listen.
hmm,
Because Zach is
all right.
back with
Well,
a brand new edition.
you don't even let me do the
All right,
follow up
sorry.
then. I was
Oh, I'm not. I thought I was the funny one, and you're just gonna sit there and take it. But you're saying this is a back and forth thing.
if you volley it up, give me a chance to spike it,
Well, all
and
right,
then
all right. So, what did you
so
want to elaborate on deal
no,
flow?
so I think that's an interesting question about what constitutes deal flow and what deal flow is enough deal flow.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the expectations from limited partners? Like, so I'm aware of today something like 20 to 30 seed companies in the Tampa Bay region that could qualify as possible deal flow for a seed plus series A fund. That doesn't mean that they're all good investments at by any means,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're trying to create a matching program or set up your deal flow Tinder profile, there's at least 20. I would even go as far as say, if I had to write it out, I could probably get to 30 companies that could qualify,
Yeah.
right? So, and then when you talk about what is the investment flow or the check writing flow of a fund, like are and what is their expectation? In my head, like writing 2 to 3 checks a year is a good start, depending on the check size. Um, Unless you're doing a strategy, of course, which is, plant and pray, which is smaller
Yeah.
check sizes to 10 companies, write 50K checks, see which ones do well enough to come back to you within a year. And then that's when you make your strategic investment. But those are just my worldview, and I'm not plugged into the soul of the Tampa area. And so I'm thinking there's got to be 2 or 3x that.
Well, so the problem is that there can be a lot of companies that are theoretically in business and they're looking for investment, but not all those companies are appropriate for investment.
Mhm.
And most of the time, it's because it's a first time entrepreneur who's built something that's an amazing professional services company or an amazing bootstrap company that doesn't have the infrastructure for scale. And a good way to harm a company is overcapitalize it with external expectations that don't match with the capacity of the entrepreneur. And
Mhm.
so the solution that I'm kicking around, and I talked with one of your buddies, Alan, about a pre-accelerator accelerator. Get your company ready to go and get ready to get funding. Because what happens, and you've been through accelerators, multiple accelerators, often you show up and you're just not ready. And you've wasted a couple months and everyone else is getting checks and you're wondering why you didn't. And I feel like if you're going to create an ecosystem where you are entrepreneurial focused and you have a community of entrepreneurs in a particular vertical, like for me would be cybersecurity, it is really, really important that you go from the babypreneur all the way to the
Mhm.
exit and putting those kind of mechanisms in place. That's like, this is how you get on the on ramp to get funding. And if you're not on that on ramp, please don't come knock on my door.
Yeah, I think that's right. So, uh, part of I would say a major issue that I hear from VCs is the number of professional services companies parading around as if they're software companies,
Hmm.
SaaS companies, who are convinced they need more capital, but they do need more capital because services is capital intensive.
Yeah.
I need 10 more bodies in order to get $1 million more in revenue, and that's
Yep.
my scale plan. And if a body leaves, then so does a book of business. And it's like, hold on a sec. You have to be able to divorce headcount from your business model, right? And
Yep.
you have to have a different flywheel for both. And so it should be the business model driving who you hire, not who you hire driving the business model. And so that's a real challenge in the region. And I think you're absolutely right that as you look out into the future, you're going to have to plant the right type of business mindset and model, which are things like being very comfortable with what subscription models look like, why they're appealing to investors, and why that's the best place to
Hmm.
put cash, and then encouraging babies from the beginning to grow up as a SaaS company.
Yeah.
I think that's very powerful. Or you can certainly grow up as an R&D company, you can grow up as a healthcare, life sciences, etc. But the those are also tremendous ROI opportunities for investors. But the what I think you're trying to get at is true. But what I'm suggesting right now is if your expectation for deal flow is 10 deals in the first year, no city has that sitting around.
That's fair.
So, but
Yep.
if your expectation is two or three, you can get two or three and then build the ecosystem so you get 10 deals a year.
Well, and the thing is that when you are looking to create a center of influence for a particular type of proficiency in a city, so again, cybersecurity, um, what you want to do is have companies growing there. But if you can become a lighthouse that's like, we know what we're doing and know how to support you, the other thing is you want to have transplants. You
That's
want
right.
people to say, oh gosh, I'm an Israeli company, I'm great at all this, I want to get into US markets, where in the world should I go? Boom, you go to Tampa or you go to wherever, right? And
Hmm.
so part of the deal flow is nurturing local talent, but that's a 3-year play. That's a 3-year play to really build that ecosystem and have your first babypreneurs reach to the point where they're on that on ramp and you're ready to invest. And while that's building, and that will be the future table that you eat at, you recruit in from outside. But it's not enough
Hmm.
to just send the capital out and have the capital come back. That doesn't build an ecosystem. That builds wealthy limited partners, which is fine. But what we want to do, and what the hypothesis is, that we can really build this flywheel if we send capital out and it comes back with companies.
Hmm.
And that to me is exciting because
Yeah.
the idea that different companies can be aligned, like if you were just bumping into other cybersecurity CEOs every day because you're in that facility, or you're going to the right networking events or whatever, it opens up so much more opportunities. One of the reasons Atlanta is doing so well is that people bump into each other.
Yeah. I think you're right. So, like, the there's a way in which you could establish another dynamic of bringing deal flow in, and that is attracting companies to want capital from Tampa, want to have an office there, remote office, what have you, some sort of presence.
Yep.
And so then you have this whole other ecosystem you can build of buyers, acquirers, and mentors and advisors in the
Mm.
Tampa ecosystem, right? So by taking money from this fund, not only do I get X, but as far as capital, but I also get headquartered in Tampa. There are companies like Raymond James, right? Where it's like, oh, I can get access to Raymond James, or there's a large presence for Bank of America. I can get to Bank of America, or there's large companies that have been known to acquire. You have spin-offs from a group called ConnectWise. You have Tech Data Synex.
Yeah.
Here you have a number of companies that might be interested in your tech, that by having a presence with this capital fund, you have relationship access and a reason to come visit Tampa two or three times a year and put
Hmm.
all the people in the room together and create that
Is
serendipity.
Are we making it too complex of a system? Or is this why a fund manager exists? Because a fund manager sounds like the person who goes out and builds those relationships and opens the door for
Mhm.
the portfolio companies. And then there's other fund managers who simply raise money all day long, fire and forget, tell me what happens later. Like, because it seems like you're describing the former fund manager is what's necessary to build an ecosystem.
Yeah, and I'm suggesting too this is over the course of time. I'm just pointing out future
Sure.
dominoes and activities. Yeah, I'm always going to be interested more in the non-spreadsheet VC activities, right? So
Hmm.
like the spreadsheet VCs out there, I say the driven by the MBAs who this is this is equity investing without the public markets, right? So like without relying on other analysts, Morningstar ratings, etc., these people are trying to figure out where to put money in equity.
Right.
And those spreadsheet folks are pretty smart and they're good, and they've been known to create various types of returns, and those VCs exist. Um, what I'm suggesting is that in addition to that, creating the ecosystem of masterminds for babypreneurs and programs for them, whether on ramps to accelerators, and then to have buy side acquire side relationships already set up
Mm-hmm.
in in again like the Tampa region is going to be the distinguishing thing. So I think that's how you get deal flow.
Yep.
I think that's how you build the ecosystem, and I think that's how you ultimately win. That you fast forward in 10 years, there should be more than one fund doing this
I know,
in,
right? And
in
then we should
Tampa.
all be like supporting each other. And, I would love a fund who's really good at XYZ, and I'm in the industry right next door, and we all follow on each other, and our investments become companies that begin to support each other. And
Yeah.
that's so to kind of put a bow on this, that is the hypothesis, Zach, is that we can go and find a city that wants to be known for ABC, and then we can find investors and city officials who have the 10-year vision that said, this is what we're going to build. Let's invest the money. Let's invest the facilities. Let's do all of this stuff and go forward. And if you the problem is that when you have such a clear vision, you're going in, you're starting talking to the right people without boots on the ground, without people who know that city and know the people. You can't just parachute in and begin like walking around Knoxville, right? You have to have those networks. You have to be able to connect to those people. So that's usually what is limiting my city selection, is where does my personal network extend,
Mhm.
which I think that's not a positive or negative statement, but that is just a thing that I have learned is thank goodness for my 20 something years of entrepreneurship where I've built really cool networks. Because without these networks and without somebody willing to take a phone call, it's really, really difficult to do kind of the things that you're saying.
Mhm. I absolutely agree.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
Well, then you're very smart if you agree with me, and I think
Yeah.
that I got you a T-shirt that says I'm smart.
I'm happy to disagree with you. I will look for opportunities to be contrarian.
Yeah. Okay. Well, um, talking. I did want to jump on one other thing, and I don't know if we need to go for a full hour here. What we really talked about was the ecosystems, and part of that was how fast you go. And one of the questions is, do you start with a big fund, or do you do special purpose vehicles and a number of smaller deals to build a track record? And I would like to take about 10 minutes and talk through that, because what I really want to do is change the world. In order to do that, I feel like I need to have this ecosystem we just described. And I see a fund that is a large, mature fund as being absolutely critical for that huge ecosystem. And maybe we have to start small.
You know what's this is one of those things that um I've been thinking about a lot. So one
Pickled herrings?
here's the fly in the ointment,
Okay.
right? Is you read about these VCs who started small. They did things like special purpose vehicles, one-off angel investments, figured out, etc., quote unquote, gathered momentum, had a track record of some sort of success, whether it was real dollar success or if it was just book dollar phantom equity success, whatever it is. And they rolled that up to impress a number of LPs, to give the LPs the social capital and the air cover that they needed to make an investment in somebody they
Mm-hmm.
liked, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so these LPs make an investment in who they like, and then the fund is situated, and even then, the fund size is intended to grow, right? So that you start with a $5 million fund, and then a 10 million, then a 50, and then 100 million, and what have you. And you do that iteratively every 2 to 3 years. You launch a new fund while
Yep.
the other fund's still going, because before that fund can be proven to be, a dud or amazing, you go ahead and raise your next round on all the book value of we invested in here and that these three companies have already raised an additional bit of capital,
Yep.
blah blah blah. So, okay, we all know that that's strategy. The fly in the ointment is the VCs out there who write in the blog spheres or get on podcasts themselves and say, um, the LPs will tell them all the time, we don't care what you did with small deals. Can you do big deals?
That's it.
And so then the the venture capitalist, right? The capital allocator is sitting there going, why did I put all this effort in all these small deals then if you dismiss them and discount them in the overall narrative to say, hey, that's nice you did that with your own money. That's cool that you're a day trader,
That's
but
right.
what we really want to know is if we give you $10 million that you can put together the right kind of fund investment for the right kind of equity picks. And that's a that's a thing that gets in my head all the time, right? Where if you're going to raise money, shouldn't you just raise the money?
Well, I like that. And one of the things that we have found, so as I'm traveling all over the world trying to raise this fund, and I'm talking to all these LPs, the first thing they need to know is who are the partners in the fund? What have they done? Because what they're trying to do is build up all that social proof that if they give you capital, you can be trusted with it. And so, one tool to use, so we are looking at doing an ecom roll up with one of our funds, and there's hundreds of millions of dollars ready to be deployed. But that group is only wanting to deploy, you know, about 1.5 million. And the reason is they're like, yeah, there's more money after you've proven that you can do stuff and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see in a strategic value of doing special purpose vehicles, small deals with potentially larger investors who are taking a test drive with how do you handle the capital? How do you pick a company? How do you, they're test driving you, but I don't see any value if you're just doing it by yourself. If you're doing it without the ecosystem. And let me rephrase that. There's absolutely value for you to do it by yourself. Have fun, go team. But if you are trying to take it to the next level, it's just like you said. When I sold my company and I redeployed my capital, and I'm showing that I'm doing on capital deployed, I am up 7 times, right? Nobody cares. Yeah, that was your money. I don't care. What have you done with other people's money? And so, when I'm thinking through all these opportunities in front of us, what I'm considering is I'm all about the smaller deals. If those smaller deals lead to building trust with people who are capable of doing bigger deals, because I want to move the needle. I want to do big things. And in order to do that, I feel like I need massive amount of capital to deploy to fund those people who are doing those amazing things.
Which is interesting. You just said massive amount of capital. The To a number of LPs, by the time you roll it up, even altogether, that might not be massive. It's a lot to
I
you.
know, I know, I know.
Like,
We're talking about 30 million, and people are like, "Well, it's just not enough." I'm trying to grow by X%, and in order to do that, I need to deploy 150 million, and so I just can't even consider your teeny tiny $30 million fund.
mhm. Yeah, that's right. So I remember one point in time when a investor looked at me and I said something like they were going to put in, it wasn't a lot, maybe 100,000. And I made the comment like, listen, I really appreciate your trust in me. We'll take care of this. I was trying to reassure him that he was making all the right decisions. I was trying to make sure he wasn't feeling any,
Buyer's remorse. Yeah.
buyer's remorse. And he pauses and he says, listen, the only reason I'm giving you $100,000 is because I believe you're very comfortable with 10 million because you're going to write me a bigger check back. I need to know that these
Mm,
numbers are something you're comfortable with. And so right, like somebody writes you a check for 30 million, you have to the value you bring as a VC is your comfort level with 150 million
yeah.
and your
Yeah.
ability to write them a check. Somebody writes you a check for 30 million, I'm here to give you a check back for 90 million in 10 years.
Hmm.
and I'm comfortable with that number. I know the game we're playing. Let's go do it. And trying to demonstrate and put together the entire narrative for a type of investor to see that with social proof, etc., is difficult because every LP is different.
Oh yeah, I was just
And
thinking
so,
that every LP is different because you have people who have money to deploy, but they have no idea how the game plays, and then you have people who do know how the game works and they're experienced LPs, and those people are gifts because they know the game. They understand why they're there. You don't have to convince them that this is a good idea or not. All you have to do is align with them that how you plan on deploying the capital and getting the capital back matches the strategies that they are interested in seeing happen with their money. And I remember I was on a call with one guy. He's like, "Yeah, I know how venture works. Um, it's likely I won't see my money back." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, no, but the chance because of where you're at and where you're positioning is higher that something amazing will happen, and I'm willing to put a little bit of my money." I think he was talking about 2 million into the effort for the chance that you're going to do something amazing with this thing.
mhm,
And somebody who understands how to allocate their capital, allocate and understands the game of venture versus private equity, where I feel like the earlier you invest, the higher the risk that you don't get your money back. Without and therefore the fund managers have a responsibility to really help nurture those younger companies. Um, I love that world because that's where all
mhm,
the opportunity is, and that's where all the disruption can happen. Because if we do VC different, and instead of having one unicorn in 10 or one unicorn in 20, I think you were talking, I can't remember if it was the last time we chatted or just on a phone call. You were discussing, hey, do you do this thing different and you're the human focused? And instead of having one unicorn, you have five that are like stallions. I love that
mhm.
so much. And that's the disruption. And I feel disruption can happen from entrepreneurs like us moving into investment when we bring our entrepreneurial innovation to early stage investing, and how do we support those companies to do what they need to do.
You know, on that point, as far as what you declare as a victory for your fund and how
Hmm.
you get to the outsized return number, um, I was thinking there's probably a counterpoint, which is simply uh, in the marketplace of companies that have been or have received investment. If they've received investment from strategic VCs who are willing to capitalize them to the nth degree to win the game, that they have, for all intents and purposes, a infinite amount of cash available to them to capture a market, you start running the risk that you would, as a VC, undercapitalize and one horse while it's racing against another that's fully capitalized. And you just would have to make sure that jockey and horse are um, willing to do what it takes to go gorilla to win, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that struck me. I was thinking about a buddy of mine who has a compliance as a service um, solution, and he was telling me that he just raised like 5 million, and he was really thrilled with it. Series A, 5 million, let's go,
Yeah.
right? And then his biggest competitor just announced a 4x valuation, who the competitor is roughly the same size, but they raised 25 million. And he was happy with where he is because he doesn't have all the pressure that his competition has to grow an executive team quickly, etc. And he thinks he can be gorilla and very nimble, where they're going to have large capital deployments to create a
Mm.
feature set and a lot of waste already in order to quote move fast. And so he's not afraid of that game. But when I was sitting here thinking, like, the VCs that back the smaller horse, the 5 million, they got to be sure that their company can win against the company in the same space who just got a 25 million. And
Right.
that's probably something to keep a lookout for when placing bets. So that's a that was my counterpoint to my own, um, how do you get, 5 stallions who are doing 500 million valuations. You've bought the right equity, the right book value, outsized returns. You've got the right kind of preferences so that a liquidity event is exactly what you want for your portfolio
Hmm.
for them, and you're rooting for them, and you're not pushing them to be a billion-dollar company on book value if they don't need to be.
Yeah.
So
I think that's complicated because well, no, it's not complicated. You just have to have those values set from the very start in the fund so that when LPs come along, you can explain to them, this is how we do, this is why we do,
mhm.
and everybody's on the same page. Our investment thesis isn't to create unicorns. Our investment thesis is to create stallions
Yeah,
and
or
lots of
outsized returns. Our investment thesis is
them.
we invest in the right type of teams and the right type of industries to get you the return at the top of the market. That's what we do. And
Perfect.
so, like, I mean, that might require a little bit more engagement on, like, um, some sort of psychographic personality breakdown of the founders or the founding team, to say, like, this is why we think they can go gorilla and beat even up and coming startups in the same space,
That's
right?
interesting.
Not just the legacy incumbent gorillas that are in every industry, right? So,
Well, let's tie this thing up, and instead of going for a full hour, I'm going to end with the smart thing Zach said. That's me. When you said something smart, I wrote it down. I only have one thing.
one more thing that I wrote
Well,
down for you.
yeah, 100%. So,
Just kidding.
um, you said the business model drives the people, not the people driving the business model, and I think that is just so important because when you surround yourself, and I do it time and time again, here's all my buddies, we're going to start a company. What can we all do together? And then the people drive the business model. That question, what can we do together? And then it's very organic. But if you're going to be trying to play in the VC game, you really have to reverse engineer that. You have to say, what is the business models that are most appropriate to steward capital and deploy capital most efficiently for outsized returns? And then what kind of humans and rock stars do I need in that company? So I think that's really, really important, especially in the context of building ecosystems of entrepreneurship inside of cities, when you're starting a company, when you are looking for places to deploy capital. That whole comment where the business model drives the people, not the people driving the business model. Zach, you're really, really smart. And you sound smarter when I paraphrase and restate what you said.
Thank you, Adam, for cleaning up my messiness there. No,
Yeah.
I think one of the key takeaways that I have uh, from you and from the points you were making, I'm actually going to summarize and aggregate a few points you made. That the fund will only go as far as the fund's relationships, right? So the ceiling to the fund is going to be the LPs, the access to LPs, the people that the people that can potentially buy, leverage, go upstream with future follow-on capital, etc. Deal flow is going to be based on people, etc. So what I was aggregating from you, the smart thing you were pointing out is um, this fund will only be as big as the relationships that it has.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
um, you know, especially as you're starting off. So I think there's probably a lot more to dissect about what that ceiling or throttle is for the fund and understanding where it fits as a niche now
Hmm.
versus where it should be and what that niche looks like. Right. So it's not really a counterpoint to what we were saying with the business model driving the people. It's this is an but um, perhaps the fund will be built by the people who show up, let's say in Tampa.
Yep.
And so it's really imperative we get the right people to show up.
There you go. Yeah. Man, you sound smart when you say things that I say. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. And yeah, good times.
Yeah, absolutely. Good talking today.
Hey, and thanks for joining us for the TSOB podcast. Find us on LinkedIn and give us your hot take. The whole reason we're doing this is to get access to better conversations that help us up our game. And if you have something you want to share, we want to hear about it. Find us on the TSOB LinkedIn group and jump in with 2 feet. We can't wait to chat.